WEFUNK. We funk.
I guess to give you a quick run through on some of the jammy faves, however, all right, as it is the Jammin World podcast, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown on some of the real solid Jam Fest lineups going down as well, all right, where of course, there's no Woodstock 51 this year, after all of the shenanigans that went down with the whole Woodstock 50 disaster last year, and that really being the main headlining, so really of the whole Jammin World podcast experience last year, as the monthly saga that was Woodstock 50 always being a big headliner on the show. I guess a couple of the other real headlining festival storylines on last season's Jammin World podcast, all right, in last year's festival season, but I guess the rotating, home as well as kind of, thematic lineup revolving around Mountain Jam. All right, which up in Hunter Mountain, local to New York City, a couple hours north, was a real great favorite local jam festival. Started by Warren Haynes and Radio Woodstock, and, was a real, of course, Mountain Jam Allman Brothers song and whatnot, and a real strong, Allman Brothers roots festival, all right. They were always headlining between Allman Brothers and Mule. It was always a Mountain Jam, always, a trickle-down jam fest from its inception. Over a couple of years span, though, however, prior to last year, I'd say from like 2015, 2016, 2017, around that time, Mountain Jam, I guess, really do, again, just because it's proximity to New York and its popularity kind of started going by the way a little bit more like Bonnaroo. They were I guess they were really trying to become a Bonnaroo in some regards, but we're trying to get more from a traditional jam festival to a more cross-genre pop festival, all right. Over last year, however, back to its jammy roots with the festival lineup, as well with the whole, they really went out of their way to point that out before the lineup was made. They made announcements that they were going to be getting back to the jam genre in terms of their festival. I guess really the other big news, however, though, was the change in location after taking place every year since its inception at Hunter Mountain. Last year it got moved to Bethel Woods Performing Arts Center, which is, of course, the home of Woodstock 50 years ago. Right. So with no Woodstock 51 going down in Bethel Woods, let's do Mountain Jam one more time and pretend. And of course, Bethel Woods dating back to its roots at the original Woodstocks, but amazing festival grounds and just plenty of room. They've got an amazing amphitheater stage already built up for the main stage, and plenty of great space all over the fields for, second and third stages and whatnot. So real good place for a logical place for a big festival, and hopefully Mountain Jam making a home at Bethel Woods Performing Arts Center. All right. This year, some pretty sick jammy faves on the line. Friday headlined by Trey Anastasio Band, as well as Green Sky Bluegrass and Jason Isbell on the bill. Saturday, back to the roots, and as well back to the man that started it all, as Mountain Jam is a Warren Haynes festival, as hilarious as that may be. But Gov Mule headlining Saturday, as well as His Golden Messenger, as well as the Levon Helms tribute going down, I guess, in honor of what would be 80th birthday of the late legend Levon Helms, but a Levon Helms tribute going down on Saturday. Like I said, His Golden Messenger. Sunday, you're getting some of the leading ladies as Brandy Carlisle, Grace Potter, Yola, all on the bill for Sunday at Mountain Jam. So I guess just interesting there. Back in what will potentially be the new home of Mountain Jam at Bethel Woods, and back to the jam for the Mountain Jam lineup. All right, I guess one of the other stories of last year's festival season, but the kind of cancellation and the rebranding and renaming of the Wani Festival down at the, of course, Wani Park in Live Oak, Florida down there. But Wani Festival, kind of like I mentioned earlier about festival season, you know, it always kicks off in some warm weather, the warmer weather cities, Coachella in April, as well as Wani was always the real first of the major jam fests down in Florida, would always have epic bills just because it seemed most acts, you know, still shy of spring and summer tours and being the first real, you know, of course in Florida, year-round festival grounds, festival territory. It was always just seemingly a super popular festival in the jam world. Last year, kind of rebranded, not as the Wani went away, however, the same grounds hosted the Swanee Rising Fest. All right, at Swanee Lake, rather, where Wani took place, but the Swanee Rising Fest, kind of rebranding Wani. Back at it this year, in mid-April, with Phil and Friends. Tapped a headline in one of the, of course, Phil will get into another major festival weekend headlining spot. But other than that, not a lot of festivals on the schedule for Phil, and really one of the only other headlining festival appearances will be at the Spirit of Swanee Rising Fest, rather, down at Live Oak, as well on the bill. Lettuce and Soul Live, North Mississippi All Stars, Nth Power with Jennifer Hartswick, The Big Something, Black Pumas, Dumpsta Funk, and Ghost Note. Both on the bill at what will be a real fun weekend to kick off festival season in the jam world at Swanee Lake. At the Swanee Rising Fest. So happy to see that going down, as well as there was a little bit up in limbo what was going to happen when Wani announced cancellation last year. All right. I guess a couple of the other big ones, I guess we'll go to Peach Fest, which is, of course, as you all know, the Big LW Jammin' World podcast, the official festival of the Big LW Jammin' World podcast, being the one that I usually try to go to, just due to its proximity of New York and Scranton, Pennsylvania, only a couple hours away, and always with amazing lineups. This year, I guess, the big news for Peach Fest, really, I guess since ever 2 years ago, when Fish Festival up at Watkins Glen was scheduled for, mid-August there. Really, I feel ever since then, to not compete with Fish Fest that year, Peach Fest moved their lineup into June, I believe, for that year. Ever since then, the last couple years, bouncing around the lineup, bouncing around the calendar a little bit for Peach Fest. This year, real headline story of Peach Fest, but taking place over 4th of July weekend, which is super, super inconvenient, especially if you're trying to convince your growing, responsible, mature friends to come along. 4th of July weekend, much like last year's Fish Tour, actually, with the Fenway Park shows scheduled on 4th of July, just a very, very tough weekend. And this year, 4th of July on a Saturday night, but a very, very tough weekend to kind of build your all of your plans around Peach Fest. All right. So very, very unfortunate lineup. If you can make it, however, amazing way to celebrate America's independence and the birth of our nation by tripping balls up on Montage Mountain. And this year, as always, amazing lineup on deck as J-Rad, who've become real Peach Fest staples on the bill, as well as another Oysterhead appearance with Trey and Les Claypool in a headlining spot, as well as String Cheese Incident, headlining Peach Fest. As well on the bill, Billy and the Kids, which is, of course, the Bill Kreutzmann, Grateful Dead, tribute band with Tom Hamilton from J-Rad on guitar, Reed Mathis, great bass player in the band as well, with Bill Kreutzmann, the original drum player of the Grateful Dead. So Billy and the Kids on the lineup, Medeski Martin Wood with Schofield on the Peach Fest lineup, Pigeons playing ping pong, the Allman Betts Band, I guess some Allman Brother roots here at Peach Fest as well, as we're getting J-Mo and friends, we're getting O'Teal and friends, we're getting the Allman Betts Band, as well as a couple of the real, just major emerging acts. Really, I guess probably the 2 or 3 hottest emerging jam acts. But Goose, Spafford, and Acquiesce all on the bill, as well as Billy Strings, Turquoise again doing the Talking Heads tribute. Just an absolutely stacked lineup for Peach Fest as always. And 4th of July weekend to boot. So God bless America, and watch out for the rattlesnakes. That's the other problem with Peach Face, riddled with rattlesnakes. So be careful as they let you do whatever the fuck you want in those woods. So you're on your own. But definitely enjoy yourself some Peach Fest as well. Another one of the traditionally great Jam Fest lineups, but Electric Forest, the original Rothbury Music Fest, and one of the like I said, just real granddaddy of all Jam Fests, which of course a little bit like always an electric feel, especially at Electric Forest since the rebranding. But one of the real early, super popular, jammy electronic festivals, and a great lineup as well. So, as always, String Cheese on the Electric Forest lineup, it seems, as well as Flume, Major Lazer, Bass, Nectar, and Disco Biscuits, of course, at Electric Forest, Diplo, as well as Big Boy, as well as Lotus, right, some electronica from Lotus, but some Grateful Grass from Keller Williams. Right, and another set from Rainbow Kitchen Surprise and Electric Forest. So a lot of good acts and lots of different genres and styles coming together at one of the real great festivals, still in Rothbury, however, called Electric Forest. And then I guess one more before the big headliner, but another real good one. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I teased that on back-to-back weeks was the Shaky Knees Fest and the 420 Fest, all right, where Sweetwater 420 Fest, like I mentioned over the last couple years, really just amazing lineups as well. Early in the season for a lot of the country, as the end of April is still ahead of the curve for where a lot of places are doing major festivals. Atlanta, with the warm weather, can get away with it on a yearly basis. Although last year did rain all weekend, as I recall from watching the free live stream of J-Rad. But another great bill for 420 Fest this year, as where Bonnaroo we got double doses of Les Claypool. 420 Fest, we're getting double doses of Trey, as Oysterhead tapped the headline, as well as Trey Anastasio Band, another headlining night. Snoop Dogg, and I guess it is 420 Fest, all right, taking place right around the great weed holiday of April 20th, and a very weed-heavy lineup with Snoop Dogg as well as Toots and the Maytals on the lineup, as well as J-Rad, as well as the Revivalists, Lake Street Drive, Dr. Dog, the Floozies, Doom Flamingo, as well as favorites Lettuce, Marcus King, the Allman Betts Band, Marco Benevento with the spot on 420 Fest, Ripe, another good emerging jam band. So all around amazing lineup at 420 Fest in Atlanta the weekend before, an absolutely amazing lineup for the Shaky Knees Fest. So a good time to not be watching the Braves in Atlanta. all right, for a festival, a couple of festivals to kick off your spring, all right, or I guess to end your spring out in Atlanta, because by May we're getting to summer down in hot Atlanta, I'm sure, and I guess that leaves us with just one more jammy festival to break down, and I guess it really has turned in to the premier festival on the jam scene, I guess most notably due to its connection with Peter Shapiro, who, of course, the grand master of everything, the ringleader in everything in the jam world. But, of course, starting his own festival, of course, the owner of the Capitol Theater and the Brooklyn Bowl in Brooklyn and Vegas and Nashville and Philly and more coming along the line. So he's really started, he's in the process of kind of opening up a chain of, rock clubs in some of the great music cities in the country, as well, of course, Relics Magazine, one of the premier, jam-based magazines. So he's everything jam band, Peter Shapiro, with his own festival, which, because of all things, has really become the main, like I said, premier festival in the jam scene, with always, and especially the last couple years, with the epic Trey and Derek, Trey Anastasio and Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi Trucks Band and Trey Anastasio swapping sit-ins. There's always amazing collaborations and sit-ins going down with the kind of the interlocking stages, as well as there's kind of, a huge rotating stage where as one band is performing, the other band is setting up, and then the stage slowly rotates, so the music never stops. All right, so pretty cool festival concept there. However, it does just kind of just mandate like a one-stage setup, so not a lot of, crowd dispersal and not a lot of variety and things to see, I would imagine, as kind of, other festivals set up 3 or 4 stages you can kind of bounce around. Lock-In goes with like the one major stage approach with the music continuously coming at you via rotating stages and whatnot. So a really cool, whole unique thing there, situation, and like I said, really, just always with major names and cool tributes and collaborative sets. Always a real staple in Hallmark. I guess this year, a real thematic celebratory feel, as it has officially been dubbed Phil Lesh Birthday Weekend, where I kind of spoke about it on last month's show, but the Phil Lesh surprise birthday party celebrations going down at the Capitol Theater in honor of Phil's 80th birthday on the annual Phil Lesh birthday Capitol Theater residency, which goes down every March. This year celebrating his 80th birthday with a special surprise guests to be announced when the curtain drops at showtime. So a cool celebratory weekend's worth of Phil Lesh birthday shows in March. However, another real fun birthday weekend celebration going down at Lock-In Fest, which I guess as well, I real quick will point out that much like Peach Fest shuffled around this year, where usually Lock-In, I believe that was usually always in the end of August or the middle of August. This year, potentially for heat concerns, as that's always everybody's complaint about Lock-In, but moved up a couple months to the end of June. So I got to get to the bottom of what the hell happened there, but a 3-day Phil Lesh birthday celebration where Phil tapped a headline every night with pretty sick lineups going down as well. Well, I guess the first two nights, Friday, you're getting Phil with the Q, right? Of course, Warren Haynes and Jimmy Herring on guitar, with Rob Baraka and John Molo rounding out the band, and one of the real, just, classic fan favorite Phil and Friends lineups, all right, is the Q. So you're getting a Q show Friday. You're getting more Q on Saturday. However, Phil and the Q will be joined by David Crosby. All right. So super cool David Crosby Phil Lesh sit-in going down on Saturday night. Sunday, however, really epic Phil and Friends lineup, as he will be joined by the boys of J-Rad, as well as John Mayer, actually, of course, from Dead & Co., who has pulled a sit-in with J-Rad on their trip to Los Angeles last year, actually, which is just really kind of interesting. John Mayer, being the, lead guitarist of what's kind of, the major stadium arena, just bigger than life Grateful Dead experience. However, most of the real Dead fans would probably tell you that the actual best, Grateful Dead tribute, the fact that it doesn't have Bob Weir in the band hurts the attendance a stadium's worth of people. However, the real, red hot Grateful Dead tribute act on the scene is, of course, J-Rad. So John Mayer playing with J-Rad, in a 800-person rock club or whatever in Los Angeles last year, was a big sit-in and a major sign of respect for the boys in J-Rad. The fact that Phil Lesh is having them round out the Phil and Friends, and I guess they've done this before, as I did see even a New Year's Eve show, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, was a Phil Rad, and I've seen a couple of Phil Rad shows, so they've done this. Phil really was an early, validation in a lot of ways for the boys, giving them kind of that stamp of approval when J-Rad was just on their first couple years of touring, one of their first real, welcomings on the scene to a lot of people were rounding out a Phil and Friends lineup. So that really did help catapult, and J-Rad has always paid a lot of respect to Phil for that. And Phil, really, of course, working with Joe all the way back to further. Joe Russo and Phil worked together, but the various members of Phil, of J-Rad, especially Scott Metzger, has done a lot of, Phil and Friends lineup and has traveled all over to work with Phil. And all of the boys in J-Rad individually have done different, Phil and Friends shows and work with Phil. So a lot of two-way respect there, and a big spot for J-Rad playing with Phil and John Mayer on the Sunday night headlining spot of Phil Lesh Weekend at Lock-In. All right. So super fun, as well as the rest of the lineup. Pretty sick as well. As over the weekend, you're going to get some Government Mule, some Mike Gordon Band, O'Teal and Friends, some Electric Hot Tuna, Bruce Hornby and the Noisemakers, some Almond Betts Band, some Dickinson, Luther and Cody Dickinson, with the said Railroad Earth, Goose, Leon Bridges on the bill. So great week music all weekend long, headlined by 3 nights of a Phil birthday bash for your lock-in weekend.
Big F! WEFUNK. We funk.